All right. So, as you may know, I did an interview with Target Individuals United with Roy the other day, where we did an interview and I spoke about the most prolific things that are going on in my life right here and now, being the so-called protagonist of a global social engineering program that is being run primarily by the United States government and its intelligence agencies, obviously in close cooperation with the Danish and British and their intelligence agencies. And in this interview, I forgot to mention how I have written an extensive complaint over the Danish intelligence agencies called PET, in which I reference many of the active measures, the illegal surveillance, the target individual program, how the persecution against me is going on publicly, how they're aiming to set me up as being some kind of sex criminal without there being any prior cases or judgments or prosecutions ever against me in anything related to a sex crime, and yet they are constantly blaming and labeling me as being some kind of pervert to everybody and anybody on a continuous basis since the inception of this program. Many of the things that I have just mentioned quickly here, I also talk about in the interview with Roy, but I forgot to mention how I have made a complaint and how the watchdog with the intelligence agency called TET, which is supposed to oversee that the intelligence agencies here in Denmark abide by the rule of law and abide by the PET law, which sets out the parameters which they are supposed to operate within. And obviously this is not going on, and this is very much proved in my case, since I'm being publicly persecuted and the target individual program and everything that entails is being used publicly, not only just on me but on the public at large. For example, synthetic telepathy, using me as a walking, talking base station and propagating messages to people in a certain vicinity of me based on my geolocation, and how the intelligence agencies are using the illegal surveillance that they are catching through remote neural monitoring of me and my senses. Obviously, I should have mentioned this in the interview, and how the watchdog is not willing to do anything to mitigate or stop any of the illegal activities of PET. And it is no surprise either, since I did my interview, I have been retaliated against heavily. I'm of course being subject to lots of sleep deprivation, and lots of propaganda campaigns are being waged. But I specifically want to mention how the target individual community and how the leaders of this community, which I would simultaneously venture to guess that a large percentage of the people in control of leading the target individual communities are themselves working for intelligence agencies and states and maybe even corporations, and they are all trying to make out as if I am some kind of paid participant in the target individual program, despite my targeting going on publicly and despite how it's been going on for so many years, where my life has materially and visibly by millions and millions of people from all around the world been destroyed in public. And they want to make people, especially target individuals that are genuine, believe that I'm some kind of paid participant, and I'm just apparently just living my life in the program because I'm being paid for it. There's no amount of money in the world that would make anybody live this kind of miserable existence that I have found myself living since 2008 that is worth any kind of money whatsoever. So obviously they're just the community, the states responsible for the program are just trying to persuade other people not to get in any kind of contact with me and avoid me like the plague, because after all I am a genuine target individual, and I'm being targeted publicly, and I also have my faculties together, and I'm fairly eloquent in my way of explaining things, and I have some amount of credibility in the things that I say, because it has been seen by people, as I say, millions of people, time and again, and it is no secret. So therefore, obviously, the target individual community, they want to turn against me. And other than that, of course, They are still prohibiting from me selling my car, this Seat Ibiza from 2018. Despite me selling it way under market price, they are prohibiting everybody here in Denmark from buying it, despite there being dozens of people who are wanting to buy it. And this is all because they don't want me to have money to improve my shielding. They don't want me to be able to put a down payment on my own property instead of renting the house I'm living at now, where I could expand my business, a business called One Stop Engine Shop or motorbutikken.dk, which, as I say in this interview, they are also always trying to destroy by typically claiming that I'm using my business as some kind of conduit to get close to teenagers, and thereby attempting to commit some kind of sex crime towards the people I'm selling my engines and scooters and bits and bobs that are go into engines of these types. I'm using all this as a means of supposedly getting close to teenage boys, and not as a way of earning money, which is obviously what I have a business for. Of course, also for something creative for me to use my time on, but my main goal, of course, is to earn money, and I have a lot of success in having a lot of people wanting to buy my engine, scooters and parts, but almost all of my sales are being prohibited by the authoritarian Danish state and its draconian intelligence agency called PET. So this is what is going on, and this is also mainly what I'll talk about in this interview with Roy.
Hello everybody, my name's Roy. I'm an MK Ultra survivor, and I've got with me a lovely gentleman, and his name's Stephen. And Stephen, he took his testimony back in January, and Stephen's come to say hello again. And Stephen's from Denmark, and he's going to give us an update on everything that's happening. Nice to see you again, Stephen. Over to you, mate.
Likewise, Roy, and thanks for taking out the time.
Pleasure.
So, I just wanted to tell about some developments that has taken place since my last interview with you. And I thought the situation was quite bad then, but I can tell you things are just getting exponentially worse and worse and worse. And my situation is now as such that I'm being targeted to such an extent that I can't really do anything, where I'm amongst other people because of the nature of the targeting of me. Last time I spoke to you, I was able to do martial arts. I did fight sports, Nolbo, a few times a week, which is one of my passions in life. And this has been made literally impossible for me to carry on with because they are using the target individual program, the synthetic telepathy communication system, especially to not just target me, but also the people in my surrounding. And last time I spoke to you, I said the target individual program had gone public, and this is one of the aspects of that, where they are communicating to everybody in my surrounding and making me out to be a threat to everyone's enemy, and they are constantly communicating to people through synthetic telepathy, and they are accusing me of everything under the sun, and they are especially happy to accuse me of being some kind of sex criminal without there being any charges, any cases, any judgments whatsoever. I'm not even told what they're accusing me of other than the titles, and they are just ostracizing me from everybody and making me out to be a threat to everybody, so everybody hates and despises me. And not only are they attacking me this way, but they're also attacking the people in my surroundings and then blaming me for it. It's kind of like this movie, I don't know if you have seen it, it's called Eagle Eye from 2008, where the protagonist in this movie is not following the directives of some kind of evil AI. And as soon as he doesn't follow the evil AI's directives, then this AI just calls everybody up in his surroundings and calls him a terrorist. You can see the clip here. This is what I'm living under.
Welcome station exit now.
Yeah, that will do.
And to be honest, Stephen, I think that's a great example for people on the MK Ultra or targeted individuals program. I thank you, mate, for sharing that.
Yeah, it kind of gives people a clear picture of what's happening to me in real life. But instead of people getting calls on their phone, the government here in Denmark and the intelligence agency called PET are using synthetic telepathy to communicate to the people in my surroundings. I don't know how large the surrounding is, but it's very, very clear when you're in a certain vicinity to me, they can communicate through
Yeah.
synthetic telepathy. So I'm kind of a walking, talking base station. They hear what I see, they see what I see, and they analyze what I think of a given situation, and then they communicate to my surroundings based on the information that they are getting from my natural senses. And their mission is always to sabotage me and to try to have me set up. And they want people to hate and despise me. And I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm not doing anything to merit people's hate towards me, but they are constantly coercing it in members of the public through these kinds of draconian measures that I have just tried to give you a little a glimpse of here. It's hard to put things into words, but I hope this kind of gives people an understanding of the public persecution through the target individual program that is going on with me. And this is anytime I do anything, I can't even go to the supermarket without this happening. And if I stand in a queue and they will harass people in the vicinity of me, and then they will say, "Oh, it's him who's having all of these strange ideas," and quite often it's quite perverted ideas. And they especially go after the vulnerable. So if children and the elderly are about, they will target them, and then they will just put a label on me and saying this is my fault, so these are my intentions, and I'm just not doing it, or whatever they are saying. But they're not. They are just constantly making a narrative, or you can call it psychological operations. It's psyops to a level that has never been seen in public before. That's for sure. So it's quite outrageous, my situation.
I'll tell you what, Stephen, I'll give you an example actually. Back in the 80s, I'd already been on the program for the first time for about 3 months.
Right.
And yeah, it was about 1979, 1980. And they gave me a taster of the program. And so I knew what it was like back then. And then they gave me a reprieve. You know, they showed me what it was like. And then a few years later or thereabouts, David Icke became very, very prominent.
All right.
because,
Yeah.
because they put David Icke on the program. And the reason I'm saying about David Icke is because, bless his heart, he lives on the Isle of Wight, not far from me. And that they made an example of him because he was prominent, but he was outspoken. And now I'm not a fan of anybody really. And they've done this to Russell Brand as well at the moment. They're in this country, they're destroying Russell Brand to make out he's some sort of pervert and all that lot as well. So I've just given an example. I appreciate that, Stephen, and that's what they do to innocent people, innocent men.
It is a tactic, and they do it to anybody who they want to discredit. And nowadays, you are guilty until proven innocent, and it's just getting so preposterous. This is happening to Russell Brand, as you say, and he's a prominent person with millions and millions of followers. Most people don't have that kind of followers or that kind of wealth or anything. So when it happens to someone like me who has nothing, it's so hard to fight it. And as I say, the Danish government here has literally made me the enemy of the people by just constantly creating these psychological operations not only are they using the target individual program, but they're also using the national radio stations. It's an equivalent to BBC. It's called Denmark's radio, and on their FM stations, they are rebroadcasting, if you will, in a more direct sense. Then they're regurgitating what the state is propagating through the program, and they will repeat this on the FM station every day here called P3, and they will literally run psyops or against me, where I'm always either being demonized or made guilty of something, or I am being ridiculed. And especially this ridiculization that is going on next to demonization, then they are causing me all kinds of physiological problems like overactive bladder syndrome. They're causing me to have IBS through pulsed frequencies, causing my system to react in certain ways to the directed energy weapons, only so that they can use the effects that they are causing me in their propaganda. And obviously, they are completely and utterly fascinated with the most depraved nonsense. So they want people to associate me with piss and shit, as well as being some kind of sex criminal, without there being any merit to their claims whatsoever. Of course, they're causing me problems. That means I need to go to the toilet more than I otherwise have to, especially with an overactive bladder and whatnot. But it's not like I'm walking around covered in my own filth in any way, shape, or form. But that is literally what they are making me out to be, without it actually being true in reality. And they are just harping on the same claims and accusations to such an extent that they are normalizing, or they are indoctrinating their millions of listeners in the public to just accept this being as such, without it actually being fact. And this is the kind of level that they are going to. And this is happening to me publicly, as I say. So it's quite extraordinary.
I'll tell you, Stephen, a few days ago, it came across to me, and I was told they're actually using this in supermarkets now, and this is subliminal advertising.
Right.
They're actually rolled this out, and I've actually got links to it, or I know of it.
Yeah.
So that you know that so the big people know that this is being used on people, because
Yeah.
they're actually paying for it to be done, to get
Yeah.
people to spend money as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, there is many insidious ways that subliminal messaging, what we call synthetic telepathy, but in a more not overt, but the opposite of overt,
Yeah,
subliminal,
covert. Yep.
covert. Yeah, and they're doing it in ways that the listeners of these communications, they don't even know it. I see people who are being subjected to these kind of synthetic telepathy communications, but it's not just the messaging itself. There's also underlying coercions going on within these transmissions. That's undoubtedly true.
And we know it's being rolled out globally, because today it was actually explained, or not explained, it was reported that Elon Musk's brain chip is being rolled out now.
Yeah,
So you know, and that's today,
yeah,
October the 4th, 2003. You know, so
23. Yeah, yeah,
you know, it's about people. Please God, you all wake up, because what Stephen and I and all of our friends in the MK Ultra survivors, targeted individuals, and Havana syndrome are going through is absolutely real.
oh,
And
absolutely.
about 7 years ago, Havana syndrome became public, and to me it was like, yes. And the reason I say that, because 7 years ago I'd already been reporting and researching for 8 years. And when Havana syndrome came out, it was proven, and it is, that people were hit with directed energy weapons in the embassies. You know, and I'd already been reporting this for 7 years, and had been on the program since 1995. So I was fully aware that it was happening then. You
Yeah,
know, so
yeah. And there's no doubt it's being rolled out publicly, and they're using the situation with me, the public persecution of me in public. They're using that as the way to do it, the conduit, uh, and uh, and it's just quite incredible what people now in the general public, they're accepting these things more and more and more, and it's being introduced into public society incrementally. And here in late 2023, well, there is, the way I see things, there's very little hope for things turning for the better anytime soon. And that's what's really scary about all of this, is that the powers that be all over the Western world are they're doing everything they can to gain more power and control all over the entire society, and they are willing to treat the members of the public as a foreign enemy. And they are literally categorizing people as enemy targets who they can do almost anything to. And if you stand against them, as we alluded to before, they will quickly you will quickly become a target where you get accusations whatnot directed at you without there being due process and whatnot.
How's your health, Stephen?
As I said before, it's not great. I keep fit myself. I do a lot of training. I hardly drink, so I keep on top of things. But I am being heavily attacked. So I have problems with my health in regard to overactive bladder and IBS.
Thanks,
So
mate.
yeah, this is direct. Sorry, yeah, this is a direct cause of the directed energy weapons.
And do you feel the directed energy weapons, Stephen? And if so, which part of the body do you feel them in?
Well, you're just bathing in non-ionizing radiation. So I don't know if it's a specific part of your body, but something that is a giveaway to directed energy waves is the heat that comes off microwaves. So when you are being bombarded, you can often feel the heat on your skin, and this is something that many other target individuals experience as well. But it's yeah, what they go after with me is my functions, bodily functions. And not only are they completely making it almost completely impossible for me to be amongst other people, what I mainly spend my time on is training, which I can only do at home now. I also have a small business called One Stop Engine Shop, where I build two-stroke engines and scooters, and I also want to sell motorbikes and whatnot in the future. So now I have a website. I have a lot of interest here in Denmark in my website, and they are likewise doing everything they can to sabotage my small business. I don't know if Roy can show you.
Yes, I was just about to show. I was just about to share it, Stephen.
Yeah,
Sorry, my apologies for this.
no worries.
Right, so there we go. This is Stephen's business. Can you see it, Stephen?
Yeah, if you go into store up there, yeah,
Okay, yeah, okay, gotcha.
and you can little scroll down. So I build these engines there for scooters, and I just go down while I talk. That'd be great.
Okay, mate.
So I build these small two-stroke engines, and yeah, that's kind of what I spend most of my time doing, and also to make a bit of money, so I can drive my motorbike and not have a completely horrible existence money-wise. And I tell you, as they did with my fight sports, they are doing to my small business. Thanks, Roy.
That's okay, mate.
They're doing it to my small business like you couldn't believe. They are probably restricting like 90% of all of my sales. And that's obviously robbing me of a lot of money. And they are doing the same kind of things that they are in other senses. So when I try to sell something, and if some teenage kid wants to buy a new engine for his moped, then I'm suddenly akin to a sex criminal because I'm building an engine and selling it on the internet. And it's just ridiculous nonsense to most people, but it is the government saying these things over and over and over again. Every single day, they are harping on the same claims and accusations without ever charging me whatsoever. And they are practically ruining my means of earning an income other than being on sick leave or dole. And this is specifically to stop me from having success, for one, and also being able to defend myself better, as you can when you have money. You can hire lawyers, and you can build better shielding, and you can buy equipment that can measure electromagnetics waves and frequencies. And shielding is also something that I have spent a lot of time on and have some experience in. And obviously, if I had more money, I could build a proper shielded room, and the targeting of me would be much less profound when I sleep, which is the period of time that they seem to target you most, is when you sleep. I would say I'm always subjected to some kind of sleep deprivation, and when I'm finally allowed to sleep, I'm always being brain entrained, being literally brainwashed. I have no control or no power over the information that is being sent to me in my sleep. I can't do anything other than just be a receiver of the information that they are sending me. And as I say, they want to destroy me in every which way possible. And it's just outrageous, and it's horrendous, and it's getting very bad here as of late.
Thank you, Stephen. And I'll tell you, I want to give a shout out to John McAfee, the late John McAfee, and especially his wife Janice, because we lost John last year, or earlier this year, and John was actually living in a Faraday cage in Spain, and
All right, yeah.
he had an 8-way jammer, and he was living in a Faraday cage with an 8-way jammer. Now, none of this should ever happen in life. You know, you're getting hit with directed energy weapons. You're getting you have to have an 8-way jammer to protect yourself from the signals that are coming into you, and you have to live in a Faraday cage.
Yeah, you
You
can't.
know, what sort of life is that?
Well, you can't live in a Faraday cage, but you can all. The most important thing is when you sleep, that you're not subjected to these mind control techniques and brainwashing attempts, because that is what they are doing. They are embedding you with all kinds of information that is harmful to you, and they're obviously trying to make people into Manchurian candidates, or they're trying to get people to kill themselves, or they're trying to get people to do outrageous things like school shootings and whatnot. And that's another thing that they do, and it has obviously succeeded in the United States with people who are being targeted go on a rampage because they are being targeted to such an extent that they go crazy. So it's no joke.
Yeah. And Stephen, what about your family? Have you got family around you?
Yeah, as I spoke to you about last time, I chose not to be in contact with them, but unfortunately for me, my father has just died.
Sorry, mate.
Yeah, it's okay. Of lung cancer, he was diagnosed in 2021, and no one told me about it. I was only told the very last day of his life that he was terminally ill, and my sisters phoned me up and told me this, and I was just shocked how nobody had told me. And now, after they've been saying this, I can actually recall that people in my surroundings, as I say, people are being communicated to by the state. People were actually mentioning in indirect terms that I should probably make calls to my family and whatnot. And this, they were alluding to that something had changed or something was going on without being able to tell me directly. And so my dad was terminally ill for 2 years without anybody telling me directly, including my own family. And when I spoke to him, I couldn't even have a proper conversation with him. He was so ill and so medicated. And obviously, I wanted to make amends. And I'm pretty sure that he had been trying to get in contact with me as well, but was not able to, because either because he was sick or he couldn't get through on my phone, as it was being jammed from receiving calls from his number. And this is something I can't say for sure, but it's very likely that he tried to get in contact with me in leading up to his death. And obviously, when I spoke to my sisters and whatnot in England, in Brighton, I wanted to go to the wake. But as soon as we started making arrangements for me to come over there, you know as well as I do, they started targeting my family over there and accusing me of everything as they usually do, and just revamping their old propaganda scripts. And they made it as such that they didn't want me there. Firstly, they wanted me to come over naturally. And after a week or so, well, then they didn't really want me there. And they were kind of withholding information about when the wake was going to take place, where it was going to take place. And at the end, they just told me outright that they didn't really want me there. And obviously, this was after being subjected to the propaganda. So I was intending to go to England for the wake scripts, and they made it as such that they didn't want me there. Firstly, they wanted me to come over naturally, to by the state. People were actually mentioning in indirect terms that I should probably make calls to my family and whatnot. And this they were alluding to that something had changed or something was going on without being able to tell me directly. And so my dad was terminally ill for 2 years without anybody telling me directly, including my own family. And when I spoke to him, I couldn't even have a proper conversation with him. He was so ill and so medicated. And and obviously I wanted to make amends. And I'm pretty sure that he had been trying to get in contact with me as well, but was not able to, because either because he was sick or he couldn't get through on my phone as it was being jammed from receiving calls from his number. And this is something I can't say for sure, but it's very, very likely that he tried to get in contact with me in leading up to his death. And obviously, when I spoke to my sisters and whatnot in England, in Brighton, I wanted to go to the wake. But as soon as we started making arrangements for me to come over there, you know as well as I do, they started targeting my family over there and accusing me of everything as they usually do, and just revamping their old propaganda scripts. And they made it as such that they didn't want me there. Firstly, they wanted me to come over naturally. And after a week or so, well, then they didn't really want me there. And they were kind of withholding information about when the wake was going to take place, where it was going to take place. And at the end, they just told me outright that they didn't really want me there. And obviously, this was after being subjected to the propaganda. So I was intending to go to England for the wake, and because obviously people would have spoke to me about not only about his life and how it's going with me, but they would obviously also mention things that they had heard and whatnot, and that would lead to a conversation. Regardless of what people believe, there would be an exchange of words, and those words and exchanges will make people realise that things are not as the government is proclaiming.
And I'll tell you, Stephen, and the most horrific thing that I heard through the V2K is I'd been on the program a few years, and the V2K came through to me, and I recognised the person who said it, and the actual words were, "Ha ha ha! Your daughter's got leukemia." And because I'd been on the program a while then, and then I actually found out my daughter had leukemia at 5 and she was in remission at 9. Can you
Right.
imagine what evil people they have to be to say that to another man or anybody for that instance?
Yeah.
You know, and that is just pure wickedness. And
Yeah.
that's how I found out my daughter, who wasn't in my life, had leukemia, because they told me through the voice to skull.
Right. Yeah. It's just completely and utterly outrageous. The things that they're willing to do is just beyond belief.
Yeah,
And it seems like they just keep upping themselves. So things are just getting worse.
yeah.
So
And sorry, Stephen.
no, no, I was just going to ask you if she was cured.
Well, she's in remission, but sadly, because her mother believes that because she was on so many drugs as a kid, she actually became a heroin addict at
Oh
15.
no.
Yeah, so and you know, she's on the methadone program now, but
Right.
you know, and sadly, that is, you know, what we got to deal with. It's, you know, because they're so messed up as youngsters. And then she was using heroin in the wrong circles.
Right.
And, you know, so, but thankfully I've got 2 grandchildren, but sadly she's not talking to me
Oh,
because, you know, well, because I report all the us and everything else. And, you know, I don't know why she's fallen out with me, you
no.
know, but like most of us, all of our families are turned against us. If we've got family in our lives, we're very, very lucky.
Yeah.
If we're lucky enough to work, we're very lucky. And if we've got a partner, we're very lucky. You know, that's my opinion anyway, because
Yeah.
everything was taken from me.
Yeah. Yeah, same here. I have to fight tooth and nail to keep what I have, and it's very very difficult to exceed in life in any way, shape, or form. What is mostly taken from me is my ability to have any relations to others. That is one of their biggest threats. It seems
Yeah,
that they don't want me to be amongst other people, and that's obviously because people will soon realize that their propaganda is just utter bullshit, and they don't want that, and so that's why they make it so impossible for me to have any kind of interactions or relationships with others, and that is obviously very lonely as well. So you have to be very tough to survive in these programs. And I'm quite sure you say you're an MK Ultra survivor
yeah.
because of the length of time you have been targeted.
No, because the program that I was on, you couldn't get away from it. They sent me to the Philippines, for instance, to marry a woman, and they made me gamble 70,000, borrow another 15, and I'd already been on the program 9 years, and because they'd emptied my brain out and uploaded my brain, and they'd
Right.
regressed me back to childhood.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, and then they put me, so to speak, back in my body. If and I've got 8 years of diaries, and they're being published soon as well.
Right. But what I was going to say that I think when I originally thought about my targeting, I thought it was around 2008, but there are clear signs now that it started way, way before.
Yeah.
And someone who could have told me about that was my dad, my dead dad now. And that is one of the reasons that they didn't want me to speak to him on his deathbed, because people who are just about to die and who know they're terminally ill, they tend to talk about things that they were not able to talk to you about in normal circumstances. And I'm pretty sure that my targeting has something to do with my English family, or on my dad's side of the family, and that's how I think it all began. And I'm not going to find out, at least through him, how it all began. But needless to say, I think I'm to a long time victim of this program way before 2008. I don't know when, and I don't know to what extent. And there's also things that suggest that this is true. I understand that they are making all kinds of claims about my childhood as well, but I don't know the specifics of what they are saying. But if it's anything like they are saying now, it's obviously to a large extent completely and utterly false, and they're obviously trying to make me out as being some kind of evil incarnated, and that is just a part of the program's propaganda.
So,
So do you think that rings a bell?
well, totally, because wherever I go at the moment, there's street theatre everywhere. There's
Right.
people taking photos. Other people are saying, I go out for a coffee with somebody, and people are saying, why are they taking photos of you, Roy? And I
Right.
just ignore it, you know,
Yeah.
because, yeah, because it's happened last few months. I had a honey trap 4 months ago, you
Right.
know, so they're putting young females, well, middle-aged females in my way,
Right.
and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
she turned me over for a little bit of money and all stuff as well, you know,
Right.
and it's part of the game. It's
Yeah,
part of their game,
yeah,
sadly.
yeah. Oh, you're 100% right. That they use females. They have definitely
Yeah,
used my ex-girlfriend to a large extent, and that kind of getting me to fall apart for a little while,
yep,
and that is what they do. They get you on a bender. They get you to
yep,
fall apart over time, and gradually, and you just become a shell of yourself. And when you become nothing, then they start entraining you with all kinds of sick shit, and that's how they build, in some cases, Manchurian candidates.
yep.
And since we can have this conversation, it has obviously not succeeded in this regard.
When's it going to finish, Stephen? When are we all going to be free, or are we all ever going to be free? Because I went to see the beautiful Barry Trower and his wife Linda last week,
Yeah,
and to me and like Barry, it's so advanced now, and it's so, it's been 70 years in the making. We know it's perfected. We know that the brain has been 100% decoded. And
right.
we know that they can find any of us anywhere within a millimeter on the whole planet. And
Yeah,
hopefully people are going to wake up to this soon and
yeah.
realize that this is real, you know,
Yeah,
and
as I said, yeah, sorry. As I said, I'm pretty sure people, to a large extent, know that this is real. People know that it's going on, but they don't care, and that's why there's such ferocious propaganda in the works. And that's what is that's kind of why people are accepting it, because people think to themselves, "Oh, if they are being targeted like this, there must be some reason, regardless of there isn't any charges or judgments or whatnot." That doesn't care. You are guilty until proven innocent, and
yeah,
that can be literally impossible when it's the government continuously just pumping out propaganda, claiming you to be the next most evil thing since Hitler and whatnot, while at the very same time clapping for a real Nazi in the parliament in Canada. So it's the upside down clown world, and people are really going to be in trouble if this continues like this.
mm. I bumped it. Well, I didn't bump in. I was walking around my hometown, and one of my family members, my brother, he said to me, "Oh, are you still nuts?" Right? And yeah, but you see, he's part of the game, because they used him against me, and
Yeah,
but I've had 50 years of that, so I'm used to that. So
yeah,
so so I had, and then I've never seen him, and then all of a sudden I see him 3 times. I've
right,
moved. I've moved a lady down into my hometown to help her out. She's in a hotel, and he was at the end of the road. And I
right,
went out for a walk on Sunday, and who was driving along with his missus and stopped to wave as I was talking to somebody,
right.
you know.
Yeah. So you think they're trying to anchor him into your life in some way?
Yeah, because they knew that my brother was domineering over me and controlled me by bullying me,
Right,
that was their way of keeping him under their umbrella, to keep
right.
me as their bitch. So
Yeah,
I wasn't allowed to grow. So the minute I grew, they would all help to ruin me.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It seems like a pattern. Yeah. Right. Well, it was nice to have a chat with you again, Roy. And
Likewise,
okay.
Daniel, lovely catching up with you, mate. And I'm sorry that things haven't improved for you.
Yeah, and so you have to be honest with yourself. If you are part of become a target of this program, there is no hopes in any foreseeable future that it's going to stop. And don't just believe that it's going to stop because they tell you through synthetic telepathy or they promise you something. It is mostly lies and fabrication that they tell you and tell everybody else. So you just have to make the most of it, I suppose.
Um, I'm going to not disagree with that, because Barry Trower said last week, and I know this is perfected, this program, without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah.
But part of me has got a little bit of faith, because I've got a few people that are really doing a lot of research and a lot of good. and we've got ways to. We've got a few things coming out within the next week or two. There's a lot of discoveries,
Right.
and yeah, and there's some good people that are involved in our community that's certainly approaching me now, Daniel. You know,
Good.
because
Yeah.
and I'm only we need to keep a little bit of faith. I
Yeah, you have
know
to
it.
have hope.
Exactly. You know, and that's what I'm saying. We've got to try to believe that because when I saw the headlines, Chile were the first country in the world that were applying for neuro rights.
Yeah,
You know, when a country applies for neuro rights, what is that saying?
yeah,
Come on, you know, they are telling Chile is telling the rest of the world we don't want our citizens having neuro weapons used on them. We want neuro rights in our country.
yeah,
So kudos to Chile. And the sooner that the rest of the world follows suit with Chile and take neuro rights, and we have ways of detecting that they're actually using these neuro weapons on us,
yeah,
and using the voice to skull, which is caused known as V2K, the remote neural monitoring, which is exactly what it says, and lots of other things that
yeah.
you know that they're using on us, and it's not for the benefit of us, because
No, it's
in the
not for the
long run,
benefit.
well, because they know what time you go to sleep, what time you wake up, they know who you speak to, they know how much you earn, they know who your children are, your wives, your husbands, and so on and so forth. There is no escaping from it. The minute
No,
that people get
and
implants or
and the
they
worst thing,
become,
and the worst thing about it, you're completely right what you're saying. And the worst thing about it, they have malicious intent. They're not just surveilling you and see if you're a good boy. They
yeah.
have malicious intent. They're manipulating you. They're coercing you to destroy yourself or have other people destroy you. And that is one of their sole objectives with this whole program, is not to better anyone's lives, but to give themselves more power and control over the general public. And that's what they are doing.
Yeah, and people are going to become robots
Yeah,
because, you know, and sadly, you know, society will become like that, you know,
yeah,
and transhumanism and everything is here, and
yeah.
it's here in a big way, sadly, you know, and I'm so grateful to you to see you again, Daniel, and I
You
wish
have
it
to
was on the
remember,
bet.
yeah, I have to tell you, my name is Stephen, but I know
Oh,
you.
oh my Lord, I'm so sorry. I don't know. Oh, because I was talking, because we were talking about Daniel, Stephen. I'm so sorry, because our friend Daniel, he has actually, we've got V2K recorded.
Right.
We've managed to find the radar, and stuff. So we're going to be explaining that. So I'm so sorry, Stephen.
No worries, mate.
Oh,
Well, I'm
oh,
looking
oh.
forward. No, no worries. But I'm looking forward to see what that all leads to with these recordings and this analyzation of the electromagnetic signals and whatnot, because that's the kind of way you need to be thinking to have some proof of what is being sent.
Yeah, we've actually got the proof, Stephen. Within a few days, we'll be doing a recording, Daniel and I, and it's there. You know, we on Sunday night we did a Zoom meeting because a couple of friends of ours in the community. I'll give a mention to Elizabeth because she's fantastic. She's got an oscilloscope, and she can actually see. Once she puts it, she can actually see the pulses of electricity,
Yeah,
you know, that is going into her from the V2K or DEW,
yeah,
you know, so where things are moving forward. So
yeah.
we've got to have a little bit of belief. And I'm so sorry for calling you another name, Stephen. Oh, blimmin' it. And I sent a message to a wrong friend of mine today. Uh,
Shit
uh,
happens.
yeah, it's so lovely to see you, Stephen.
Yeah,
And I'm
nice to have a
sorry
chat with you.
it's Yeah, and I'm sorry that things aren't as good as they could be. And
Yeah,
hopefully the corner will turn for all of us.
yeah. All right, mate. Well, yeah, I may join one of your Sunday meetings here soon.
Yeah, look forward to it. I said we're on every Sunday at 9 o'clock on Zoom. Be lovely to see you.
Right.
And we're recording them now because it's better that we get the stuff, everything we know out to the whole community.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, so
All right, mate. Well, catch you later then.
yeah, and I've got to put these glasses on to turn stuff off because, as I say, I've been diagnosed with cataracts in both eyes, macular degeneration in both eyes.
Yeah.
I'm not after sympathy and
Nah.
nerve damage, and so that's why I've just got to put these on to see where the buttons.
Terrible.
Stephen, God bless you, mate,
Yeah.
and
All right, mate.
yes, thanks,
Bye.
Stephen.